Hi Joe, how you doing? I'm finally responding to your contest. Kind of early actually for me because normally, like I said, I would be doing it the day that it ends or the day after it ends. But anyway, so I needed this long kind of to think about it. And you asked the question one should never ask of another fan of a particular band because more than likely you ask the same question tomorrow or next week and you'll get a whole different set or things will be rearranged or hour by hour. Anyway, congratulations. Some tea. I'm doing this in the morning so I have a little bit of natural light outside coming in. Anyway, congratulations on your 100 subscribers and your anniversary, and you just went over 200. So yeah, wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations. And I really enjoyed all of your posts, even when you first started. Hearing you talk about, that you had a big collection, then you sold it, and now you're reacquiring them. And in a way, that's kind of like, oh, it's too bad you had to sell your collection, but there's a lot of fun in reacquiring things, and so it's kind of neat. Anyway, I've really enjoyed watching all your posts, and especially your Beatles posts, and what you had to say about them. And I am going to take part in your contest. So here we go. I'm going to start with the Beatles. I'm going to do two sets. We'll do the Beatles and do the solo stuff. And like I said, the arrangement of these, some of them could change hour to hour, day to day, week to week, but I'll do the best I can. For the Beatles, at number 5 today, this is one of those that could move up the scale, probably not go any farther down than number 5, and that's Rubber Soul. And in this case, it is the capital Rubber Soul. Yes, all you purists out there who only listen to the UK release, I agree with you. That is the official, the UK mono Rubber Soul, which I have a copy of, original from the 60s, from 66. That is the final end-all be-all version of Rubber Soul. However, with all of Capitol's fiddling around with the Beatles catalog as it came out, when they put together the US version here, grabbing a few tracks that had been released as singles, I think, and definitely grabbing a few tracks from Help, the album prior to this, and then leaving some tracks off, they actually, I think, made a better and more cohesive track-by-track album than what was officially released over in the UK. So thumbs up for Capitol, and especially the stereo version. This is one where the stereo information is on the photo as opposed to being up here on the white stripe. Just because there are a few differences in the stereo versus the mono. One big noticeable difference is on, I've always got to look and remind myself what the song is. It's I'm Looking Through You, that has the false starts. When it came to Capitol getting music from EMI and the folks over in London, they would say, what do you got? Send us something. We're trying to put together an album here. We need to put something out in the US. And they were concerned with, sorry, my chair is sinking on me. They were concerned with the product they're going to put out in the UK, and it's like, okay, here's some songs. And sometimes they wouldn't get the correct versions of them, and well, they send a master tape of I'm Looking Through You that had the false starts in it. And I grew up, that was part of the song. That was supposed to be part of the song. That's how you heard the song, was hearing those false starts. And so to hear the UK version of it, and you don't hear those false starts, it just sounds very strange to me. It's like, that's part of the song, is hearing him have a couple of false starts there and then go on to the song. So the US stereo version of Rubber Soul, number 5, is for me. A few years ago, for a long time, this would have been number 1. This one sort of goes back and forth for me now. And it kind of gets put on its own little shelf, really. It should just be, not even considered. It's like, yeah, that's that album, and we'll just consider all the others because this was so, critically and widely regarded. But yeah, number 4, Sgt Pepper. And like I said, for the longest time, this would have been number 1 for me. But you hear more and more of the catalog, and you hear things in context, and time goes on, and you got to rearrange the way you hear things and whatnot. This is a slightly beat up, yet original UK pressing, mono, with the wide spine, although it's a little crushed, little crushed, but not too bad. So this is like one of the first pressings that came off the old assembly line. Anyway, you all know this album, love it to death. It's great. So we move on. Number 3, and this is the most recent version of this that I acquired. I think I posted it on Facebook, I'm not sure. But this is a Japanese pressing of, and it's the Produce series of Abbey Road. And this is sort of the benchmark, or has been called by a number of critics the benchmark version of this album. As far as sound quality, sonics, this is what you want to sort of listen to. Well, guess who? Knew he was going to stick his nose in this. You're not in the top 5 for Beatle albums. Kitties, you're in the top 5. I'm not going to tell you where, though. Anyway. Yeah, my appreciation for this album has grown over the years. It's a minor miracle that it was even made. The fact that, oh, here he comes. And he's on this side. I know he's on this side. There he is. Yeah, I'm trying to keep you in the picture here, pal. Oh, now it's over the shoulder, and yeah, where are you going to go? There's stuff here. You can't go there. What are you going to do? I can lift these up. No? I can lift these up and get them out of the way. What are you going to do? I think you should do this. Come here. Come on. Come on. There you go. I know you went up on the table. I know. Hold on. I got you. I'm not going to let go. There you go. You got a little pattern you like to follow, but you're just going to have to break it up this time. All right. This is okay. Anyway, like I was saying, this is kind of a minor miracle album that it even got made. Being that George Martin was interviewed saying that side 1 was made for John, a standard rock and roll album, and with individual tracks, and side 2 was all about Paul and wanting to do a concept with that big long medley. And the medley being a lot of songs that they had written and were recording during previous recording sessions for Let It Be and even the White Album. What's real interesting is the whole story behind Her Majesty, that mystery track at the end. I'm sure a lot of you know it. It was previously in the middle of the medley, and the master tape was being listened to. Paul heard it, didn't like how it flowed within the medley, asked the guy to basically chop it out of the master tape, and he did, and spliced the 2 pieces together. He liked the way it flowed better. It stayed, crazy and rocking all the way through. Didn't have that break in the middle of it. And then the guy just sort of took a piece of tape and stuck it on the end of the master tape and left it there. And as I remember hearing the story told, they forgot all about it. They set the master tape off. It got pressed to the albums, and when they got the albums back and they heard it, all of a sudden, they thought the album was over with at the end of, the end. And then, 20 seconds later, at the end of the safety tape, whatever, suddenly, grang, and there's Her Majesty, and it even surprised Paul, I think. What's that doing on there? And the guy who was editing the master tape stuck it on the end of the master tape. Everybody forgot about it, and it got pressed that way. So at least that's one story I heard, and I kind of like that story. So even if it's not necessarily true, if it's slightly hypocritical, well, fine. I like that story. I want to keep that story. So anyway, like I said, this is a bit of a minor miracle, and it's also just, a good favorite album, and that comes in at, number 3. So I also got the original unauthorized CD that was released in Japan for that. That's kind of tough to come. I should have nabbed that and shown it, but yeah, don't bother with Number 4, not a big surprise here, but Revolver, which kind of for a long time replaced, well, for a long time was hanging back behind Sgt Pepper, that other album, Sgt Pepper, and it sort of leapt forward in the years, just for overall being a more, it isn't locked in a time period. The songs individually can stand up on their own, and the album itself can stand up on its own. So, and Eli, if you're watching this, this is my German copy. I've actually got 2 German copies. And way back when, I got it for $7, $6.99. What's also interesting is on the back here, on the sleeve right here, is a stamp that says, "Property of Christopher Fox. Call police if offered for sale." I bought it at a used shop. I bought it at Cellophane Square, way back in the 80s. Way back in the 80s. So, it must have been okay because they wouldn't have done that back then. Unfortunately, Cellophane Square doesn't exist anymore. So, anyway, this is the Orzu on both sides, but this is the blue label. So, there's that stamp again. Property of. I hope he sold these on his own. I hope these weren't stolen. Apologies if they were. I didn't know. So my number 1 album, and it's another U.S. album, and I think this might be very similar to what you chose as number 1 album, or close to number 1, Joe, and that's the Beatles' second album. This is just one that I have just always loved, and it reminds me of growing up as a little kid with the Beatles. You know, I could put Meet the Beatles up here too, because that was really the first Beatles album I remember hearing. My sister had it, and I remember looking at the back of Meet the Beatles and trying to figure out which Beatle was which on the back and listening to the music and all that. But the second album, this one just really, really just sounds great. This one is just always the one that I think of when I think of, you know, when the Beatles first came up and we're playing and we're over here in the U.S. and everybody's listening to them. And I keep playing on my shirt because I'm seeing George and Ringo being all crunched up. And so anyway, that's my number 1 Beatle album. You know, if I look across time, you know, historically, you know, do I think this is the best Beatles album? No. But it's my favorite album. It's my number 1 for nostalgia reasons and for music reasons. So that's it. Beatles' second album. Great stuff. That's an original. There you go. Anyway. I think I need to find a mono of that. I don't think I have a mono of that album. So. Okay, I'm going to do it now. 5 solo albums. Thought I'd do that too. Not try to take up too much. What we've been hearing in the background, if you can hear it in the background, is a kind of a long-lost Paul McCartney album. It drives me crazy because when this album came out in 1986, I never heard anybody review it or talk about it. It was like it didn't exist, which drives me crazy because it's one of my favorite Paul McCartney albums. And I didn't even hear a bad review about it. It was like it just sort of was released and people ignored it. I've got, you know, promo 12-inch singles and other 12-inch singles from it, which are pretty cool. All the 45s along. Here's a nice 12-inch single. This Pretty Little Head, great song. And have you guessed what album it is yet? There should be some clues there. Here's a nice 10-inch. Oh, there's another contest I need to enter real soon. This will be in there probably. But this one folds out, just an insane fold out. It just flip, and it's a mess. You gotta have a lot of room to fold this out. But the song Press. So anyway, I've got a lot of promo stuff, promo singles. Let's see, there's some more of those. Well, that's a promo single. But here's a kind of cool Capital Company sleeve promo single for it. This is for Press. So, and it has different versions on here. You can only get on these promo DJ releases. Gosh, $3. I think these up to like, a couple bucks a piece when they first came out. They're still in shrink. And I'm pretty sure I took all those and put them on tape so I could listen to all the various albums. Anyway, that album being Press, number 5 on my favorite solo albums. Again, I love the album artwork. I think Glinda took the shot, even though she's in it, or maybe somebody else took it. I'm not sure. But it's just this sort of 1940s Hollywood glamour photo, which I don't really understand how it ties into the rest of the music. But I don't care. It's a great album cover. I like the photo of the two of them. And that's what we've been listening to. That's what's been in the background. I just love this album for some reason, and it's right up there. Again, this can kind of slide back and forth, but right now it's at number 5 for me for my favorite solo albums. And I'll say right up front, yeah, Paul's probably my favorite Beatle if I had to pick one. I know a lot of people have John, a lot of people have George, a lot of people have Ringo, and consistently, if I look at how much, Paul's put out more product, sure, but I've always been more of a Paul guy than a John or George or Ringo guy. So that's my number 5. Press to Play came out in 1986. And this is basically my favorite Beatle album, solo albums. You can pretty much figure that out from here on in. And this is the one from Ringo. I like the Ringo album because everybody says, yeah, that's like the Beatles reunion album. Because they all play on it. Well, they pretty much almost all play on almost all of his albums after Ringo. Well, not all of them, but you'll find a Beatle or two on a lot of his albums. I think all 3 of the other Beatles play on this album. I know John wrote a number of songs on this album for him, including Goodnight Vienna. So this has just always been just a favorite album. Just really like the sound of it. All the songs on it. All the way through. This is a nice pickup. I was like the specialty label on this one, and this is a UK pressing, which is kind of nice. Yeah. So Nebula, and yeah, I found this recently. I have my original. I found this recently for, as you can see there, $2.99. UK pressing, perfect shape. The cover's a little worn. But yeah, Goodnight Vienna is just a big favorite. It's probably my favorite Ringo right there. And as far as solo goes, that's what, number 4. Coming in at number 3. I haven't seen this one shown yet, but this is my favorite John album. I don't know why. I do know why. Besides it being kind of a greatest hits, it's not. This is Shave Fish, and not only does it have the best songs from his solo albums, but it also has a lot of singles that came out that never made it onto an album. So you've got Happy Christmas War Is Over, Whatever Gets You Through the Night, Instant Karma. A Piece of Chance. So it collects a lot of stuff that otherwise didn't get on vinyl, a record of any kind. And plus, hits from the rest of the albums. So people might say, oh, that's kind of cheating, that's not really an album. Well, I kind of always consider it an album. It's, I think that goes in. Show off a little bit more of the artwork in the back here. A lot of people see this. I've got I think I've got 4 copies of this. And lyrics on the back. And I think it's got a specialty. No, this is just on the Apple label. So. Anyway, that's my favorite John album. Just like going to it because it's got, one of my favorite, probably is my favorite John song, which is Instant Karma. Imagine's a great song. No doubt about it. We'll not argue that point at all, but it's one of those songs, I don't need to hear it anymore. I don't need to hear other people's versions of it. I don't even need to hear John's version of it. I've heard it so much. So for me, Instant Karma has always been a favorite, and that's probably my favorite John song. For a lot of people, I don't really care. It's my favorite. Number 4, and my favorite George Harrison album. 33 1/3 came out in 1976, hence the red, white, and blue sunglasses, red, white, and blue glasses here with the star in the middle. I don't know if that had anything to do with 1776 or the bicentennial or not, but this came out in 76. 33 and a third, George Harrison. Promo copy. I know I've got another copy of this somewhere. This isn't my original copy, I don't think. I found this later on. I don't know where my original copy is. It's probably just misfiled in the George Harrison section. But yeah, this is this again. It's just the time that it came out, and I just listened to it to death. I loved it. Every single song of it. It was great. Great photo, George here. I love it. In the back, another photo of George. Very cool. Great shots of him. And just the time of my life when I picked this up and listened to it. I just really always loved this album. That's a nice cardboard insert for the vinyl. It's pretty cool. Also, I've also got a lot of promo material and the singles from this album too. So, lyrics on the back. So, this is my #1 George album. I know a lot of people have been showing All Things Must Pass. I like All Things Must Pass quite a bit. It's got an interesting tie-in, kind of like how the early McCartney albums kind of tie into the end of the Beatles music. A lot of the music that was on All Things Must Pass was he was sort of demoing during the rehearsals for Let It Be, and even, I think for Let It Be, I mean, he was doing All Things Must Pass and a couple of other tunes from it during the Let It Be album. So, kind of Let It Be. So that's kind of interesting. That he said, okay, if you guys don't want it, I'll just save it and put it on my big 3-album box set that I'm going to do and knock you guys all out of the water, which is what he did when he released that. I think the other guys are going, what? You know, when George's All Things Must Pass came out, that pretty much just, you know, what? I can't, what? What did George just do? So anyway. But anyway, my favorite solo Beatle album, favorite McCartney album, is Ram. I thought I'd show off the Japanese pressing here just for the heck of it. So, again, the time of my life when this came out, just everything is right with this album for a long time. This was sort of an album that wasn't given a lot of due, a lot of credit, and now it seems to be getting a lot more credit and a lot more interest in it. So, yeah, it's not a whole lot to say about it. It's, you know, McCartney doing his thing, doing his post-Beatle, anti-Beatle, message McCartney kind of thing. Which, you know, if you look at the Imagine album, you see John's reaction to the cover, and of course, the you know, message on the backside of this being obvious. I'm not going to point it out for you sensitive people or younger people who can figure it out when you get older. Anyway, so that's my #1 for the solo album. The Japanese pressing, pretty true to the original album. And I always love pulling out the goodies from, I don't know if that's a book or whatnot. If it's a book, I wish I had it. But, and it's on, interestingly enough, the Capitol label, not the Apple label, which is interesting. So this might be a later Japanese pressing. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is an original Japanese pressing. I would think it would be on the Apple label if it was an original Japanese pressing. Even if it wasn't, I would think it would still be on the Apple label. But, and then here's the Japanese insert. Kind of disappointing there isn't. So usually there's some really cool photos or something on these inserts, but not on this one, unfortunately. So, there's that. There's that, and that's that. So, Joe, those are my 10 I Can't Live Without Them vinyl records from the Beatles and from the solo Beatles. And good timing because the side 1 of Press just ended up. Congratulations, and looking forward to a lot more posts from you. And good luck with your contest. I've been enjoying all the posts I've seen so far, so glad I could take part. Okay, take care. I'm under 25 minutes. Not bad. Oh, one other thing. One last thing, since we're talking Beatles. They fell out. But it fell. But, oh, it's not gonna, yeah. I got a ticket to see good old Paul. Front row of the 300 section, directly across from the stage. Nobody can stand up in front of me. People stand up behind me, fine, I don't care. So nobody can stand up, and I gotta stand up, and I gotta look over their heads. I can sit in my chair, just relax, watch the show. So, and this will be like the third or fourth time I've seen him. I'm not sure, I can't remember. But anyway, very happy to be going, and so take care, Joe. Bye bye.